Welcome back to Tabletop Assault. I'm Ross, and today I'm going to continue my segments on analysing the Necron Codex. Today we're going to have a look at the iconic Monolith. How this works is that we're going to have a look at the stats of what you see in the book, weapon options and special abilities for the unit. After I'm going to have a look at loadout and suggestion of the role for the unit, have a look at Dynasty codes and Stratagem recommendations. So with that, let's have a look at the Monolith. So Monolith has a movement characteristic that, depending on how many wounds it's got left, it goes from 6 to 5 to 4, so it's pretty much always slow. Weapon skill 6, because it doesn't do well in combat. Ballistic skill, again, from wounds, goes from 3 to 4 to 5. Strength and toughness of 8, so that toughness is the important part, keeps in the game a bit longer. 20 wounds, which is a good healthy amount. 3 attacks, you don't really depend on it to do combat. Leadership 10 and a 3 up save, which is maybe a little bit low for something of this size. A 2 up save may be a little bit too crazy as well. It is armed with 4 Gust Flare arcs and a Particle Whip. Gust Flare arc is 24 inches, heavy 3, so essentially 12 shots. Strength 5, AP minus 2 and 1 damage. And Particle Whip is heavy 6, strength 8, minus 2 and D 3 damage. Has a plethora of specials. We've got Living Metal, which gives you an extra wounds back at the start of the turn. Death Descending, during deployment you can, well essentially it's like deep striking. Portal of Exile, when any unit other than monster or vehicle finishes a charge move within 1 inch of this model, its Portal of Exile may activate. Roll a d6 and compare it to the value required in the damage table above. If the roll is successful, the target unit suffers d6 mortal wounds. Portal of Exile can activate in a 4, 5 or 6, depending on how many wounds got left. Not bad. Hovering, distance and ranges are measured to and from the model's hull, even though it has a base. Floating Fortress, the model can move and fire heavy weapons without suffering the penalty to hit. Eternity Gate, which I'll summarise this one, is essentially it works like dedicated transport, but the troops are in another world and they can come in through any Eternity Gate or the beamers from Night Scythes. And then it does explode, which if it explodes, everything within 6 inches suffers d6 mortal wounds. So that's sort of what you get in the Codex, as you see there. Let's now speak about more my thoughts on it, loadout and suggestion roll. So the Monolith, this is what happens when you give a unit, well, everything but also nothing. Let's go over the benefits. It can deep strike, it recovers a wounded turn, it can punish units for being in combat with it, does not suffer the effects of heavy weapons, it can deploy units, it can fly, it is toughness 8. It's got it all, and well, not really. It is slow. Lackluster shooting and lackluster combat, in fact, basically no combat, meaning that with all these benefits, the actual effects of Monolith doing damage on your opponent is rather meh, it's not that high. So let's go into the weapons to justify that. So the weapons, we'll start with the Ghost Flux Arc, where there's 4 of them, giving a total of 12 shots. How I'm going to compare this is to 2 weapons that are similar but also very different. This is almost the mid-ground of both, and not in a good way. These are the Heavy Bolter and the Avenger Gatling Cannon. So to compare to a Heavy Bolter is essentially 4 of them on the same model, but with an extra AP. AP minus 1 for Heavy Bolter, but AP minus 2 for Flux Arc. Fine. This is a good way of dealing with a few Horde units, things that don't have the biggest armour. However, this is also a very expensive unit, and you're likely still to only cause a few wounds, maybe 6 casualties in Orcs on average, and against Primaris Marines you might only drop 1, which is not a good result. Now the Avenger Gatling Cannon, same amount of shots when combined, has an extra strength, because it is strength 6, which helps. It is also minus 2 AP, but more importantly is 2 damage. This is where the Ghost Flux Arc could do with a lot of help. That extra damage does make a heck of a difference, dealing with 2 wound models more reliably, and would help it in a big way. Heck, it could put out more wounds on big targets as well, which would be a lot better. The other weakness to this model is that it's only a 24-inch range, which is not uncommon for Necron units, but that extra 12 inches for the other 2 weapons does make a big difference. Frankly, I think this should be the same profile nearly as the Avenger Gatling Cannon, possibly with the Tez rule, maybe that might be a bit much, keep its 24-inch range, I think that might actually be fine. Nice for it to be 36, but you know, it's a sort of a Necron thing that they're kind of 24 inches. I mean, give more if you want, but the above benefits would truly help if you just had like that, you know, extra strength and extra damage would really make a difference for the Gosfluk arc. Maybe the Tesla rule is, you know, not quite fluffy for this, but this will make it much more efficient in dealing with hordes. Or just maybe make it like heavy 5, you know, with the Gatling status. That would be okay. That would actually make it very formidable against a whole bunch of stuff. Heavy 3 just maybe doesn't cut it, and 1 damage doesn't cut it either. For its points anyway. Particle Whip, I wasn't too sure what to compare this one to. At the end of the day, I decided to stick with the Battle Cannon, though I suppose maybe you'd want to compare it to the Rapid Fire version. At the end of the day, they are similar in a few ways, strength 8, minus 2 AP, but where the Monolith has a solid 6 shots instead of D6, which is less random, which I always think is very good, the damage in exchange is random and it's half, it's only D3 damage, because I think Battle Cannon is D6. So suppose you can compare this maybe to a Lehman Russ, but if a Lehman Russ moves less than half its movement, then it fires its turret weapon twice, so essentially you're getting 2d6 shots, or just rapid fire one, which is like a knight, which I want to compare it to. Maybe that's an unfair comparison. You know, that's maybe because this is only, I think, a heavy sport rather than like a Lord of War. You know, I said maybe that is a bit unfair, but I don't really, you know, the rapid fire does do 2d6, and even Lehman Russ can do 2d6. I don't really know what the solution is for this one to make it better. Part of me says that, you know, make a d6 damage, that way you have the advantage of reliable shots, which is excellent, I'll never fault that, but there's no way to get like 12 shots if you get good roll, and it's got the good damage. However, I'd be open to suggestions on this one. The solid 6 shots is not bad, it is reliable, which I always think is good, but not having a way to do more, you know, more damage, and you know, just not being able to do d6 damage is a real pain. I think that costs it quite a wee bit. Then the rest of the rules, so let's talk about some of them. Portal of Exile, very forgettable. A possible random amount of d6 mortal wounds, but only in combat, where a Monolith does not want to be, is nothing generally to really write home about. Floating Fortress, not suffering the effects of being heavy. I mean, Lehman Russ pretty much, and Knights, they pretty much have this as well. It's kind of a staple for these kind of units. So if it didn't have it, it would be an absolute crime. Eternity Gate, so this is important. This allows you to teleport any unit from as reinforcements. Generally, I like this rule, sort of like dedicated transport, but if you wipe out the Eternity Gates or all the beamers, then the units in the Eternity Gate die, or on the other planet, on the Tomb World. There's a number of strategies I've seen that might make this work. Obviously, deep striking in and then deploying as many units as possible is not a bad one. One I did see, now, you actually have to do it before it moves, so I'd probably say that if you deep strike in, I think it counts as moving, so you can't deep strike in and then deploy. I think that's kind of the rules, and I've maybe played that once or twice wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong in that one, but I'm pretty sure that, as it says, you've got to deploy them before you move. If you deep strike in, you count as moving, so I'd probably say you can't. Meaning that if you do it that way, then the earliest you could deploy them is turn 3, which is not good, because then people might then just beeline gun for your Monolith. One other one I did see is that people would use the Catan Shard Deceiver to redeploy the Monolith and then deploy units from it during the movement phase, during the first movement phase. However, you can't actually do that. Necron FAQ states that unit in a Tomb World using Invasion Beam or Eternity Gate are considered as reinforcements, and for the purpose of tactical reserves and match play, cannot come in battle turn 1. If they could, that'd be excellent. So I did see people recommend, I think, in the Catan, the Deceiver one, they were like, oh yeah, move the Monolith up and then deploy. You can't do that, it's not allowed. So that kind of scuppers that one as well, which is not ideal. Let me know on that one as well. But it means that in battle round 1, if you do have anything in the Eternity Gate, they are not coming in, which you'd love to. Essentially, the Monolith would have to be there and risk being absolutely obliterated first, which could isolate your units. Dynasty codes. Now, the Dynasty code is going to be pretty obvious. Mithrit, Solar Fury, each time model with this code shoots an enemy unit within half range. of its weapon's maximum range, the armor penetration characteristic of the weapon's attack is improved by 1. Sure, I mean, you need to be within 12-inch opponents to then get that extra -1 AP. That's not bad. Ideally, you don't want to be that close with your Monolith, unless you're deep striking units in, then sure, maybe. Overall, not bad, but the weakness of the weapons are not so much the AP. The AP is -2 for both, which is not bad. AP -3 is great, but maybe not necessary. Nyalaka, I pronounce it wrong every time. Aggressively territorial, reroll hit rolls for units with this code whenever they shoot, including when firing Overwatch, as long as they did not move in the preceding movement phase and they did not disembark from a transport this turn. This helps Monolith a lot. The problem with Monolith is its capacity to actually cause damage and a lack of buffs to make it more reliable. Rerolling hit rolls of 1 is a huge benefit to ensure the shots do actually make it connect. Sadly, shots are not that great either way, but every benefit sort of counts. I mean, the Monolith is a slow mover anyway. You won't sort of have it in range and just sort of shoot away anyway, so you don't maybe want to move, and that one would be a bit of a benefit. Stratagems, emergency invasion being 1 command point. Use the stratagem when the last Dynasty, Night Scythe or Monolith from your army is destroyed. Before removing the model from the battlefield, you can immediately set up a friendly Dynasty unit, still in the tomb mode, wholly within 3 inches of the Night Scythe or Monolith and more than 1 inch from enemy models. Simply put, in case you have more units in tomb mode and you lose your last unit to bring them on, this gives you a chance to save the unit. Really, you should avoid this happening, as it means plans are going very, very badly. I feel when you have used Enhanced Invasion Beam, that should have pretty much mitigated this. However, it's a good emergency stratagem, one to keep in mind, but as I said, if you're using this, something is going awry. Next up we have Enhanced Invasion Beam, 1 command point. Use the stratagem before you set up a unit from Tomb World using Invasion Beam's ability of a Night Scythe from your army or Gate from Monolith from your army. You can set up 2 units from Tomb World instead of 1. Not great for your Monolith, so it moves slowly and it's not going to get into good position by turn 2 to use this. If you deploy it, it's only moving 6 inches. You know, it's going to take you a while to move up the field to actually get to use it. And you've got to hope that it's not shot to hell by then, so that's a problem in itself. Honestly, not a bad stratagem, possible in Night Scythes. David's playstyle has this in reserve, as he usually plays 2 to 3 Night Scythes, but Monolith I just don't see it being that useful. Too slow to make it naturally move up the field, and if you deep strike it in, the earliest you technically can, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, is turn 3, because obviously you've got to do it before it moves, and if it deep strikes then it's technically moved, then you'd have to wait another turn, which would be turn 3, before you actually deploy them out. And I think I have done that wrong. So that's a bit of a pain in there. Damage control override, 1 command point. Use a stratagem at the start of any turn. Pick a Necron vehicle from your army until the end of the phase. Use the top row of that vehicle damage table, regardless of how many wounds it has left. This ends immediately if the model is reduced to 0 wounds. This is not bad, and at the end of the day, the movement is probably not important in Portal Exile, maybe a few situations. This mostly used in first shooting, which again is kind of lackluster. Okay, there may be situations you might need this, but things like Doomsday Arc will certainly call upon it before the Monolith will. So, in conclusion, and I feel this is probably actually the more important part of the Monolith, that's kind of it. To summarise, it's an expensive unit with a plethora of special rules, but it fails at some of the most important parts of the game. It does not hit hard enough in the shooting phase or even in combat. It does not have a major protection from strong attacks, which it will attract, i.e. invul saves or quantum shielding, and it's painfully slow. There is a few nice things about this unit, but just the nice things, and it's essentially a very expensive block. The Monolith is an iconic unit, and I feel there just needs to be more to it. And I feel that if the Necron Codex does be done, I mean, it will get done in time, but there needs to be a shift on it. There needs to be something different. It needs to hit harder, it needs to hit more reliably, it just has to have more of an impact on your opponent, rather than having all these special rules that give you options, but ultimately I don't feel they do enough. It's a bit of a downer to end on such an iconic unit, I would love to, please comment, share, like and subscribe, but I want to hear comments. What could fix the Monolith? What will improve it? Please let me know. I'm open to all suggestions. Am I wrong with the Eternity Gate that if you deep strike it in, you technically can't deploy the units, in which case you have to work in turn 3? Let me know on that one. But generally, I just am a bit underwhelmed for the points on the Monolith, and I think it has been a unit that has been struggling in this edition badly ever since its inception. So thanks again. As I say, please comment, share, like and subscribe. Check us out on social media where we can see our upcoming projects. I know that we've got a few interesting dioramas and things going on, which is really, really nice. We hope to try and do a few more of them. Check us out on Patreon. We can help support the channel, bring you more content, because we absolutely love doing so. So thanks again. I'm intrigued to hear what people have to say about Monolith, and I'll see you in our Tabletop Assault Battle Report.